The morning sun painted the waters of Eagle River with golden hues, while the gentle breeze made the vegetation dance in a silent symphony. Riverdale was awakening to another day with the tranquility characteristic of rural Montana, where time seemed to flow differently, slower, more contemplative. In the Anderson mansion, located in one of the most upscale areas of the town, the scene contrasted brutally with the external peace. Robert Anderson, at 42, gazed through the window of his private office while holding a coffee cup that had gone cold long ago. His hands trembled imperceptibly, and his gaze, normally firm and decisive in business, now revealed an internal confusion that had been consuming him for months. From upstairs, the cheerful voices of Emily and Sophie, his 8-year-old twin daughters, reached him as they played in their shared bedroom. The childish laughter, which once warmed his heart, had now become a sound that tormented him daily. Not because he didn't love his daughters, but because each giggle represented a cruel reminder of the impossible choice he faced. "Robert!" Patricia's voice cut through the air like a blade. His wife of 2 years appeared at the office door, wearing an elegant outfit that cost more than many people earned in a month. At 35, Patricia Winters Anderson was a woman of undeniable beauty, but her blue eyes carried a coldness that seemed to freeze any environment. "We need to talk, now." She closed the door behind her with more force than necessary. Robert sighed deeply, placing the cup on the solid mahogany desk. "Patricia, it's not even 8 in the morning." "So what?" She crossed her arms, assuming that posture he knew. Well, the one that foreshadowed another discussion about the same issue that had been corroding their marriage. "Those children woke up at 6 in the morning making noise. 6 in the morning, Robert. How do you expect me to sleep in this house with this situation?" "They're normal children, Patricia. It's natural for them to wake up early and play." "Natural?" Her tone rose an octave. "None of this is natural. I didn't get married to babysit children from another relationship. I made that very clear from the beginning." Robert felt the familiar weight settling on his shoulders. It was always the same conversation, the same accusations, the same veiled ultimatums. "They're my daughters, Patricia. I can't simply—" "Yes, you can." She approached the desk, resting her hands on the wooden surface. "There are excellent boarding schools in Grand Falls, even in Chicago, places where they would receive a quality education, and we could have our life back." "Our life?" Robert stood up, walking to the window again. "What kind of life excludes my own daughters?" Patricia laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "The life you promised when you proposed to me, remember? Trips, dinners, the house in the Hamptons, social events. How do you think we'll maintain our position in society with 2 children glued to us all the time?" At that moment, a gentle knock on the door interrupted the discussion. Emily peeked through the crack, her brown eyes shining with expectation. "Daddy, are you having breakfast with us today?" Robert's heart tightened. "Of course, sweetheart. I'm coming right now." Patricia rolled her eyes ostentatiously. When Emily closed the door, she whispered with venom in her voice, "See? They can't even knock properly. They have no manners whatsoever. They're 8 years old, for God's sake. And they'll continue to be problematic children if you don't make a decision soon." Patricia smoothed her platinum blonde hair, checking her appearance in the window's reflection. "I received an invitation to spend some time in Paris with my sister. 3 months in Europe, Robert. We can renew our marriage, rediscover our passion, charm. And the girls? That's the issue." She turned to face him. "Either you resolve this situation once and for all, finding a suitable place for them, or I'll be gone for more than 3 months. Maybe forever." The silence that followed was broken only by the distant singing of robins in the garden. Robert knew it wasn't the first time she had made this kind of threat, but this time there was something different in her eyes. A determination. That hadn't existed before. "You're giving me an ultimatum." "I'm being realistic." Patricia checked her diamond-encrusted watch. "I have lunch with the club ladies at 11. When I return this afternoon, I expect a definitive answer." She headed for the door, but stopped before leaving. "Oh, and Robert, think carefully. You built a business empire by being decisive. Don't let sentimentality destroy everything we've achieved together." The door closed with a soft click, but the echo of her words remained in the air like a curse. Robert sank into the leather armchair, burying his face in his hands. Outside, the day continued beautiful and promising. But inside that office, a man faced the most difficult decision of his life, while his daughter's laughter echoed down the hallway, oblivious to the storm forming around their small world. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. Robert took a deep breath before leaving his office. In the hallway, Patricia's footsteps echoed toward the garage, probably going to another of her beauty sessions before her social lunch. The sound of her Mercedes purring at the mansion's entrance was like temporary relief. In the kitchen, he found Emily and Sophie sitting at the breakfast table, swinging their little legs on the high stools. Mrs. Martha, the housekeeper who had been taking care of the house for 5 years, smiled when she saw him arrive. "Good morning, Mr. Robert. The girls were waiting for you to start breakfast." "Daddy?" Sophie jumped off the stool and ran to hug him. "Mrs. Martha made pancakes with honey just the way you like them." Emily, always more observant than her twin sister, studied her father's face carefully. "Are you sad, Daddy? Your eyes look different." Robert knelt to be at the girl's height, forcing a smile. "Daddy's just thinking about work, Emily. Nothing for you to worry about." "Was Patricia yelling again?" Sophie asked with the brutal innocence of children. "She doesn't like us very much, does she?" Robert's heart tightened. "Why do you think that?" "She always walks away when we come around," Emily explained, playing with a strand of brown hair. "And yesterday I heard her saying on the phone that the house was too small for so many people." "That's not true," Sophie protested. "The house is huge. It even has a swimming pool." Mrs. Martha coughed delicately. "Girls, how about we have breakfast? Afterward, you can play in the garden." During breakfast, Robert observed his daughters. With a mixture of love and despair, how had he reached this point? When he married Patricia, he believed she would eventually grow fond of the girls. After all, they were adorable, intelligent, and affectionate children. "Daddy," Emily pulled his sleeve. "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course, my princess. If Patricia doesn't like us, why don't we go live somewhere else? Just the 3 of us?" The question hit Robert like a punch in the stomach. "Would you like that?" "Yes," Sophie clapped her hands. "We could have a dog. Patricia doesn't allow it because she says they make a mess." "And a cat too," Emily added dreamily. "I've always wanted a kitten." "Girls," Mrs. Martha gently intervened, "why don't you play a bit in the garden? Your father needs to sort some things out." After the twins ran out, Martha approached Robert. The 50-year-old woman, with grey hair always tied in a bun, had a maternal manner that made her more than an employee. "May I give my opinion, Mr. Robert?" "Of course, Martha. Those girls are the most precious thing you have. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." She began collecting the plates, but stopped to look at him directly. "Mrs. Patricia is a complex woman, but Emily and Sophie are your flesh and blood. Nobody can change that." Robert nodded but couldn't respond. Through the window, he saw the girls running in the garden, chasing butterflies. The purity of their joy contrasted brutally with the darkness consuming his thoughts. The phone rang, interrupting his reflections. It was his business partner, Charles, calling about an important meeting that afternoon. While discussing business, Robert made an impulsive decision. "Charles, cancel the meeting. I'm taking the girls out for the day." "Out? Robert, are you okay? We need to close the construction company contract today." "Leave it for Monday. I need some time with my daughters." After hanging up, Robert called the girls. "How about we do something different today? Let's explore some beautiful places in the area." "Really?" Emily jumped with excitement. "Can we go to that place with horses?" "What place is that?" "Mrs. Martha told us there's a man who lives near the river and has a beautiful white horse. His name is Thunder. Mr. Benjamin is quite a character," Martha smiled. "A widower, lived alone for years, has a heart of gold, and that horse of his is almost a family member. Can I meet Thunder, Daddy? Please?" Sophie joined her hands in supplication. Robert hesitated. His original plan was different. He was thinking of taking them somewhere distant. perhaps leaving them with some family who could take care of them temporarily. But looking at their eager little faces, he heard himself saying, "All right, let's meet Mr. Benjamin and Thunder." An hour. Later they were on the dirt road that led to the banks of Eagle River. Robert drove his simpler car, an old Ford he occasionally used to visit rural properties. The girls were singing in the back seat, completely unaware of their father's emotional turmoil. The sky, which had started clear, now showed dark clouds forming on the horizon. A storm was approaching, both literally and metaphorically, and Robert unconsciously accelerated, as if he could escape the decisions that awaited him. Benjamin Oliver's property was in an area where modernity hadn't completely arrived. It was a simple but well-maintained piece of land, with a wooden house painted light blue and a garden where vegetables and some wildflowers grew. Eagle River flowed a few meters from the porch, creating a constant and comforting soundtrack. Benjamin Oliver was 67, and each wrinkle on his sun-bronzed face told a story. A retired fisherman, widowed for 10 years, he had found in the company of Thunder, his white horse, a reason to continue living after the loss of his wife. That afternoon, he was fixing a fishing net when he heard the sound of an engine approaching. "Thunder, we have visitors," he murmured to the horse, which was grazing near the house. The animal raised its head, ears alert, and approached its owner with that peculiar intelligence that always impressed visitors. Robert parked the Ford under a leafy tree. In the sky, dark clouds were thickening, and the wind was beginning to shake the treetops with more intensity. The girls jumped out of the car before he even turned off the engine. "Look, Emily, it's him! It's Thunder!" Sophie pointed to the white horse, which was observing the newcomers with curiosity. Benjamin approached, wiping his hands on an old cloth. "Good afternoon, how can I help you?" "Good afternoon, sir. I'm Robert Anderson. These are my daughters, Emily and Sophie. We heard you have a very special horse." "Ah, you came to meet Thunder." Benjamin's eyes lit up. "He loves visitors, especially children." Emily and Sophie cautiously approached the animal. Thunder lowered his head, allowing them to pet him. There was something almost magical in the way the horse interacted with the girls, as if understanding their innocence and fragility. "Is he gentle?" Emily asked. "Gentle and smart," Benjamin smiled. "Sometimes I think Thunder understands more about people than people themselves. He saved me from some troubles around here." "How so?" Sophie wanted to know. "Once I was fishing at the river bend when a storm arrived faster than expected. Thunder came to get me, pulling my shirt, forcing me to return home. 5 minutes. Later, lightning struck exactly where I had been fishing." Robert observed the scene with conflicting feelings. There was something deeply comforting about that place, in Benjamin's simplicity, in the way his daughters naturally interacted with the man and the horse. For a moment, he managed to forget Patricia's pressure and focus only on the girl's joy. "Do you live here alone, sir?" Robert asked. "Just me and Thunder. After my Teresa passed away, I thought about moving to town, being closer to my children. But this place—" Benjamin gestured around. "This place has a peace you can't find anywhere else." A distant thunder broke the air, making the girls startle. "Daddy, is it going to rain?" Emily asked, concerned. "It seems so, sweetheart." Robert looked at the sky with growing anxiety. "Maybe we should head back." "No need to rush," Benjamin offered. "If the rain catches you on the road, it could be dangerous. The dirt roads get treacherous with rain. You can wait here until it passes." At that moment, Robert's phone rang. It was Patricia. "Where are you?" Her voice was harsher than usual. "I came back home and you've disappeared. I took the girls out for a drive. We met a gentleman here near the river." "What river?" "Robert, you're being irresponsible. There's a forecast for a strong storm today." "We're heading back now." "I hope so, and I also hope you've thought about what we discussed this morning. My patience has limits." Robert hung up, feeling the familiar weight of anxiety returning. Benjamin, who had noticed the tension in the conversation, approached discreetly. "Everything all right, young man?" "Just family matters," Robert responded vaguely. "Ah, family matters are always the most complicated," Benjamin nodded wisely. Sometimes we think we have to choose one thing or another, when in fact there's a third path we weren't seeing. The old fisherman's words echoed in Robert's mind in a strange way. It was as if he could see through his troubled soul. "Girls, we need to go," Robert called, but his voice came out tenser than he intended. "Already, Daddy?" Sophie made a face. "We didn't even get to ride Thunder." "You'll come back another time," Benjamin smiled. "Thunder and I are always here." As they walked back to the car, another thunder echoed, this one closer. Thunder, who had remained calm throughout the visit, suddenly became restless. He began galloping in circles, neighing agitatedly. "That's strange," Benjamin murmured. "He doesn't usually get like this because of storms." Robert helped the girls into the car, but when he tried to start it, the engine failed. He tried again. Nothing. "Problems?" Benjamin approached. "The engine won't start." The frustration in Robert's voice was evident. "Just now, of all times." Thunder continued restless, now positioning himself behind the car, as if wanting to prevent them from leaving. The animal's behavior was so unusual that even the girls noticed. "Why is Thunder doing that?" Emily asked through the window. Benjamin scratched his head, observing the horse with growing attention. "I've never seen him like this. It's as if he's trying to warn us of something." At that moment, the first raindrops began to fall and the wind increased in intensity. Fate, apparently, had decided they wouldn't be leaving any time soon. The rain intensified quickly, turning into a real downpour. Benjamin ran to the car, knocking on the window. "Come inside the house. This storm's going to be strong." Robert hesitated. His cell phone was ringing insistently. Certainly Patricia trying to locate them. The pressure in his chest increased with each second. In a desperate impulse, he decided to try forcing the car to start one more time. "Girls, fasten your seat belts tightly," he ordered, with an urgency in his voice that scared Emily and Sophie. "Daddy, are you okay?" Emily asked, noticing the sweat on his forehead despite the cold weather. "Everything's fine, Princess. I just want to get home before the storm gets worse." Benjamin tried to approach again, but Robert suddenly accelerated. The engine finally caught, making the car lurch forward. Thunder bolted after the vehicle, neighing desperately, as if shouting a warning that humans couldn't understand. "Thunder is running after us," Sophie shouted, looking through the rear window. The dirt road, now soaked, had become a trap. The Ford skidded at every curve, and Robert struggled to maintain control. His hands trembled on the steering wheel, not just from the effort of driving, but from the emotional chaos that had taken over him. "Daddy, you're driving too fast," Emily observed, clinging to her seatbelt. Robert wanted to slow down, but something inside drove him forward. It was as if he were fleeing not just from the storm, but from all the pressures, from all the impossible decisions that awaited him. Downlit. The sharpest curve in the road, near the steep bank that led to the river, the inevitable happened. The car skidded violently in the mud. Robert completely lost control, and the Ford slid down the steep slope. The world turned upside down. Screams, the sound of branches breaking, metal scraping against rocks, and then silence. The car had stopped partially submerged in the shallow waters of Eagle River near the bank. Robert was unconscious, with a cut on his forehead. Emily and Sophie, protected by seat belts and airbags, were frightened and crying, but apparently without serious injuries. "Daddy! Daddy, wake up!" Emily shook her father's arm. "I'm scared," Sophie sobbed. "Water is coming into the car." That's when they heard the sound of hooves hitting the water. Thunder had descended the bank, followed closely by Benjamin, who had run desperately when he saw the accident happen. "Girls, stay calm, I'll get you out of there," Benjamin shouted, entering the water without hesitation. The old fisherman, with surprising agility for his age, managed to open the car's rear door. The water was cold, and the current, though not very strong at that point, made his movements difficult. "Come here, girls, one at a time." Emily was the first. Benjamin took her in his arms and carried her to Thunder, who had strategically positioned himself in a shallower part. "Hold on to Thunder's mane and don't let go," he instructed. Sophie was next. Trembling from cold and fright, she clung to her sister, both now safe beside the horse. "What about Daddy?" Sophie asked between sobs. Benjamin returned to the car. Robert had regained consciousness, but was confused and injured. "What? Where are we?" "There was an accident. I'm going to help you out of there." With great effort, Benjamin managed to get Robert out of the car. The businessman was staggering but could walk. Together they climbed back up the bank to the road where Thunder was already waiting with the girls. "The girls, are they okay?" Robert asked, still dazed. "They're fine. Scared, but fine." Emily and Sophie ran to hug their father. "Daddy, we thought something bad had happened." Robert hugged them with a strength he had never experienced before. At that moment, wet, injured, seeing his daughters trembling from cold and fright, something broke inside him, not the car's engine or the tree branches, but something much deeper. "I'm so sorry," he murmured, more to himself than to them. "I'm so sorry." Benjamin observed the scene with wisdom. He had seen many things in his 67 years, but rarely had he witnessed such an evident moment of transformation. "Let's go home," he said gently. "You need to get dry and warm, and that cut on your head needs attention." As they walked back along the muddy road, Thunder flanked the group like a guardian. The storm was beginning to give a truce, but in Robert's soul a different storm was finally coming to an end. He looked at his daughters, who walked one on each side of him, holding his wet hands, and for the first time in months he knew exactly what his answer to Patricia would be. The decision would no longer be about choosing between his wife and his daughters. It would be about choosing what kind of man he really wanted to be. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We'll continue. Benjamin's house, which hours earlier had seemed just a picturesque place to visit, had now become a true refuge. The old fisherman had prepared hot tea and found some dry clothes, his shirts that served as dresses for the girls, and a pair of fishing pants for Robert. Miss Teresa always said that the house should always be ready to receive those in need, Benjamin commented, as he applied a bandage to the cut on Robert's forehead. "I never imagined it would be in a situation like this." Emily and Sophie were huddled under a blanket, close to the small fireplace that Benjamin had lit. Thunder grazed outside, but occasionally approached the window, as if checking that everyone was all right. "Mr. Benjamin," Emily spoke softly, "Thunder knew something bad was going to happen, didn't he?" "I think so, child. Animals sense things that we can't feel. Thunder has already alerted me about storms, about people with bad intentions. He has a special instinct." Robert, still processing the afternoon's events, observed his daughters with new eyes. The accident had functioned as a brutal awakening. He had almost lost the two most precious things in his life because of what? Social status? Fear of confronting Patricia? "Daddy," Sophie approached him, "you were very strange today, different." "Strange how, sweetheart?" "Nervous, sad, like when Patricia gets angry with us." The innocence of the observation hit Robert like a slap. "Do you notice when I get sad because of this?" "We always notice," Emily answered. "You get slumped shoulders and don't smile for real. Only with your mouth but not with your eyes." Benjamin, who was listening to the conversation while preparing a simple soup, gently intervened. "Children are very wise. They see what we sometimes prefer to pretend doesn't exist." At that moment, Robert's phone rang. It was Patricia again. He looked at the screen, but this time didn't answer. "Aren't you going to talk to her?" Emily asked. "Not now, Princess. Right now I want to be here with you." The phone stopped ringing, but almost immediately started again, and again, and again. "She seems to be very worried," Benjamin observed diplomatically. "It's not concern," Robert sighed. "It's control." Finally he answered. "Robert, where the hell are you? You're going beyond all limits. It's almost 7 in the evening." "There was an accident, Patricia. We're fine, but the car—" "Accident? What kind of accident?" Her voice changed slightly, but Robert realized it wasn't genuine concern. It was more as if she were calculating the implications. "The car skidded in the rain and fell near the river. A gentleman helped us." "My God, Robert, and what if something had happened to you? And the business? And our reputation if this gets in the newspapers." Robert closed his eyes. Not a single question about the girls. Not genuine relief that he was alive. "The girls are fine, Patricia. Thanks for asking." "Of course they're fine. Children are resilient. But you need to come home immediately. We have to call insurance, get a tow truck." "We're not coming back tonight." "What do you mean, not coming back?" "It's raining, it's dangerous, and we're shaken up. We're going to spend the night here." "There where? With whom?" Robert looked around Benjamin's simple but welcoming house, saw his daughters finally relaxed and safe, heard the comforting sound of rain on the roof. "With good people, Patricia. People who truly care about us. I can't believe you're doing this, abandoning your home, your wife, your commitments, to play Robinson Crusoe with 2 children. I'm not playing anything. I'm being a father." The silence on the other end of the line was tense. When Patricia spoke again, her voice was icy. "When you return tomorrow, I hope you've come to your senses, and I also hope you have a definitive answer about our marriage, because after this whole charade, my patience has completely run out." She hung up. Robert put the phone away and realized that Emily and Sophie had heard the entire conversation. "Daddy?" Emily approached and held his hand. "You don't have to choose between us and Patricia." "What do you mean, sweetheart? You can choose just us. We love each other. That's enough." Sophie nodded vigorously. "And we can live in a place like this, with a horse and everything." Benjamin, who had pretended not to hear the conversation, approached with 3 steaming bowls of soup. "How about dinner? After a day like today, a good meal always helps clear the thoughts." While they ate the simple but tasty soup, Robert observed his daughters chatting animatedly with Benjamin about fish, about horses, about country life. They were truly happy there, in a way they rarely demonstrated at home. "Mr. Benjamin," he said suddenly, "may I ask a personal question?" "Of course." "Have you ever had to make a very difficult choice in life?" The old fisherman smiled sadly. "Many times, young man. But I learned that the most difficult choices are usually the ones where we already know the right answer. The difficulty isn't in knowing what to do, it's in having the courage to do it." Outside, the storm had passed. Stars were beginning to appear between the dispersing clouds, and inside that simple house, a man finally found the courage he had been looking for months. Morning arrived with a clear sun and the fresh air that only exists after a purifying storm. Robert woke up on Benjamin's living room sofa, covered by a crocheted blanket that smelled of lavender. His daughters slept deeply in the guest room for the first time in months without nightmares or restlessness. Benjamin was already awake, preparing coffee on the wood stove. Thunder grazed peacefully in the yard, as if making sure to watch over the family he had helped save. "Good morning," Benjamin smiled. "How do you feel?" "Different," Robert answered honestly. "Like I've slept for the first time in years. Sometimes we need to step away from complications to remember what really matters." Robert got up and went to the window. The view of the river, which yesterday had been the scene of a near tragedy, today seemed peaceful and inviting. "Mr. Benjamin, can I make a strange proposal?" "You can try." "I'd like to buy a piece of land near here, build a simple house for me and the girls, start a new life." Benjamin stopped stirring the coffee and looked at him carefully. "And your wife?" "My wife made it very clear that there's no room for the 3 most important women in my life in the same house, so I choose my daughters." "And your business?" "I can manage from a distance. I have competent partners, and if necessary, I'll sell everything. Money can be made again, daughters can't." At that moment, Emily appeared at the door, rubbing her eyes. "Good morning, Daddy. Good morning, Mr. Benjamin." "Good morning, Princess. Did you sleep well?" "Better than at home," she answered with the typical honesty of children. "Can I say good morning to Thunder?" "Of course, but be careful." As Emily went out to the yard, Sophie appeared too, still sleepy. Soon both were playing with Thunder, who showed infinite patience with the girls. "They seem like different children here," Benjamin observed. "That's because here they can be themselves. At home, they're always walking on tiptoes, trying not to bother Patricia." Robert's phone rang. Patricia once again. This time he answered immediately. "Robert, I hope you slept well and came to your senses." I'm expecting you for lunch. I've scheduled a massage for 3 o'clock. Patricia, I need to talk to you. Great. I need to talk to you too. I've decided to give our marriage another chance, but with conditions. What conditions? The girls are going to boarding school in Grand Falls. I've already researched 3 excellent options. You can visit them on weekends if you want. Robert took a deep breath. No. What do you mean, no? I'm not sending my daughters to boarding school. I'm not giving them up. So you're choosing them over our marriage? I'm choosing to be the father they deserve to have. The silence on the other end was prolonged. When Patricia spoke again, her voice was different, more calculating, colder. Very well, Robert. If that's how you want it, let's resolve this civilly. But know that I won't make it easy. Half of your assets belong to me by marital right. The house, the businesses, the bank accounts. You can have it all. What? You can have the house, the cars, the checking account. I'll transfer my part of the businesses to you too. I just want my freedom and custody of my daughters. Patricia was silent again. Clearly she hadn't expected this reaction. You've completely lost your mind. Maybe. Or maybe I've finally found my senses. And where will you live? How will you live? We'll figure it out. We have so far. Robert, think carefully. You're throwing away a lifetime of achievements because of 2 children. No, Patricia. I'm saving what really matters, and these 2 children are my entire life. After a long silence, she said, Fine. You want to be a martyr? Be one. But don't come crying later when you realize what you've lost. I won't lose anything of real value. After hanging up the phone, Robert felt as if a gigantic weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Benjamin, who had heard the conversation, approached. Are you sure about what you're doing? I've never been so sure of anything in my life. And the girls, do they know? Not yet, but I think they'll be happy. At that moment, Emily and Sophie came running in with radiant faces. Daddy! Daddy! Sophie shouted. Mr. Benjamin said, There's a piece of land next door that's for sale. Can we buy it and be neighbors with him and Thunder? Robert looked at Benjamin, who shrugged with a mischievous smile. I casually mentioned that Sebastian's land has been for sale for months. Really, Daddy, can we? Emily joined her hands in supplication. Robert knelt to be at the girls' level. Girls, I need to tell you something. Daddy and Patricia are going to separate. To his surprise, neither seemed shocked or sad. And who are we going to live with? Sophie asked practically. With Daddy, if you want. Of course we want to, Emily exclaimed. And can we live here near Mr. Benjamin and Thunder? If you really want to. We do, they said in unison. Benjamin observed the scene with an emotional smile. Well, it looks like I'm going to have new neighbors. Thunder will be very happy. As if understanding the conversation, Thunder appeared at the door and neighed softly, making everyone laugh. For the first time in years, Robert felt truly at peace. The storm had passed, and a new horizon was opening before them. 3 months had passed since that stormy day that changed everything. The simple house that Robert had built on the land next to Benjamin's was almost ready. Nothing luxurious, like the mansion he had left behind, but every brick had been laid with love, and every detail thought out for the girls' well-being. Emily and Sophie ran through the yard every morning, helping to care for the small garden they had planted. Thunder had practically become a family member, and the girls had learned to ride him with Benjamin's patience. Daddy, look, Sophie shouted, pointing to the first tomatoes that were beginning to ripen. We planted that. I see, sweetheart. They're beautiful. Robert smiled, feeling a satisfaction he had never experienced with all his business successes. He had sold 2 of his 3 companies, keeping only the smallest one, which he could manage remotely. Life was simpler, but infinitely richer. Mrs. Martha had resigned from Patricia's house 2 weeks after the separation and had come to work for Robert, even though he offered a lower salary. Money doesn't buy affection, Mr. Robert, she had said, and these girls need someone who truly cares for them. That afternoon, Robert was organizing some documents in his improvised office when Benjamin appeared at the door, holding a yellowed envelope. Robert, do you have a minute? "Of course, Mr. Benjamin, come in." The old fisherman seemed hesitant, which was unusual for him. "I found this yesterday going through some of Teresa's old things. I think you should see it." Robert took the envelope. There was no sender, just his name written in female handwriting. Inside, he found a letter dated 10 years ago. "My dear Robert," the letter began, "if you're reading this, it means I've passed on, and the time has finally come for you to know the truth about Emily and Sophie." Robert felt his blood freeze. "Mr. Benjamin, what is this?" "Keep reading, young man." "The girls aren't just your biological daughters. They're special in a way you don't yet fully understand. Their mother, Caroline, was my niece. She died in childbirth, but before that she made me promise I would always look after the girls from a distance, that I would be present if they ever needed me." Robert raised his eyes from the letter, confused. "Caroline was your wife's niece?" "Yes. Teresa never mentioned it because Caroline had asked for secrecy. She didn't want you to know there was family nearby. She wanted you to raise the girls without interference." Robert continued reading. "I know you're a good man, Robert, but I also know that life sometimes puts us in difficult situations. That's why I asked Benjamin and Teresa to always keep an eye on the girls. Thunder was trained from a young age to protect children. He has already saved 3 boys who fell into the river over the years." "So, you always knew who we were?" Benjamin nodded. "When you arrived here that day, I recognized you from the photos Teresa kept, but I couldn't tell you anything because I had promised to intervene only if absolutely necessary. And Thunder's strange behavior. He was fulfilling his purpose. He sensed that you were in danger, not just physical, but emotional. Animals perceive these things." Robert finished reading the letter, which ended with, "If someday the girls need a home full of love, away from the complications of adult life, I know you will be there. They carry in their blood the love for the land, for nature, for simple life. Take good care of my treasures. With eternal love, Caroline." Tears rolled down Robert's face. "So you are family." "We are. And we never stopped being." At that moment, Emily and Sophie came running in with Thunder right behind them. "Daddy, can I tell you something?" Emily asked, still breathless. "Of course, Princess." "I always dreamed of this place, always. Even before meeting Mr. Benjamin, I dreamed of a man with white hair and a white horse. And I dreamed we were happy here." Sophie nodded vigorously. "Me too. And I always felt Thunder was special, as if he were our friend from a long time ago." Benjamin smiled with teary eyes. "Children have a connection with things we don't understand." "Maybe it's the heritage of your mother." "Mr. Benjamin," Robert said, still processing the revelation, "why didn't you tell me before?" "Because you needed to make your decision on your own. You needed to choose your daughters not out of family obligation, but out of love. Now, I know you made the right choice." Emily approached Benjamin and hugged him. "So you're our great-uncle?" "Aye. Hyman Thunder is the horse your mother left to protect you." Sophie ran to hug Thunder, who lowered his head to receive the affection. "I knew you were special." Robert looked around at his happy daughters, at Benjamin, who had revealed himself as a guardian angel, at Thunder, who had fulfilled a promise made years ago, at the simple but love-filled house they had built together. "You know what's most amazing?" he said. "Even without knowing any of this, we arrived exactly where we were supposed to be. That's how it works when we follow our hearts," Benjamin smiled. "It always leads us home." Outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky golden. And inside that simple house, a family that thought itself lost discovered that, in fact, it was more complete than ever. 1 year later, life in the small paradise on the banks of Eagle River had found its perfect rhythm. Robert's house was completed, with a flowering garden that Emily tended with dedication and a small library that Sophie had created with books donated by the town. On that special Saturday morning, people from all over Riverdale gathered in the yard for a celebration that no one expected when the story began. Mrs. Martha had prepared a traditional Montana feast in the new kitchen, and even some former employees from Robert's companies had come for the party. "Daddy, it's time," Emily shouted from the porch, wearing a simple but beautiful dress that she had chosen herself. Robert adjusted his tie, the only concession to formality he had made for the occasion. The rest of his outfit was casual, as his lifestyle had. "Become what I'm ready, princess." Sophie came running, carrying 2 simple gold rings. "I can't believe you and Mrs. Martha are getting married." The romance had blossomed naturally over the months. Martha, who had always been a maternal presence in the girls' lives, had also revealed herself to be a perfect companion for Robert. There was no drama, no power games, just a mature and true love that grew from mutual respect and shared dedication to the girls. "Girls, come here," Robert called. "Before we start, I need to say something." Emily and Sophie approached, curious. "When I was married to Patricia, I thought I knew what happiness was. I had money, status, a beautiful house, but I was wrong. Happiness isn't having everything. It's having the right people by your side." "We know, Daddy," Emily smiled. "You're different now. You smile with your eyes for real." "And Mrs. Martha is different around you too," Sophie added. "She sings while she cooks." From across the yard, Benjamin approached with Thunder, who was adorned with colorful ribbons for the occasion. The old fisherman, now officially Grandpa Benjamin to the girls, carried a paper in his hands. "Robert, a letter came for you." "From the courthouse." Robert frowned. "Courthouse?" "They're the final divorce papers," Benjamin explained, "and there's a surprise inside." Curious, Robert opened the envelope. Along with the official documents, there was a letter from Patricia. "Robert, I know you must be surprised to receive this. I want you to know that I found someone who shares my values and lifestyle. We were married last week. In Paris. As for the assets, I've decided not to contest your decision to give up everything. In fact, I'm returning half of what I kept. A man who chooses love over money deserves to have both. Use the money to give the girls a good education. Perhaps you were right all along." "Patricia." Robert looked at Benjamin, incredulous. "She's returning the money." "It seems so, and there's more. She transferred full custody of the girls to you without contest." Emily and Sophie, who had heard everything, jumped for joy. "Does that mean she won't try to separate us anymore?" Sophie asked. "Never again," Robert replied, embracing his daughters. At that moment, Martha appeared on the porch, wearing a simple but elegant light blue dress. Her grey hair was loose, and she had never looked more beautiful. "Sorry for the delay. I was finishing the wedding cake." "You made your own wedding cake?" Robert laughed. "Who else would?" She smiled. "Besides, I wanted it to taste like home." Father Michael from the town approached. "Ready to begin?" The ceremony was simple and moving. There was no luxurious decoration or hundreds of guests, but there was something that Robert's previous marriage never had: genuine love from everyone present. When the time came for the vows, Robert surprised everyone. "Martha, you taught me that a family isn't built with money or status, but with daily dedication, with small gestures of love, with the willingness to put the people we love first. I promise to be for you the same companion you have been for me and my daughters." Martha wiped away tears. "Robert, when I started working in your house, I thought it was just a job, but you and the girls gave me a family again. I promise to care for the 3 of you as my greatest treasure." When Father Michael declared them husband and wife, Emily and Sophie ran to embrace the couple. Thunder neighed happily, and even the birds in the garden seemed to celebrate. Benjamin approached with misty eyes. "Teresa would be very proud. She always said that true love has the power to fix anything broken." Later, when the party calmed down and guests began to leave, the new family gathered on the porch to watch the sunset over the river. "Daddy," Emily asked, "do you regret losing all that wealth?" Robert looked around, at his new wife who had discovered love at 50, at his daughters who now grew up free and happy, at Benjamin who had become the grandfather they never had, at Thunder who grazed peacefully in the yard, at the simple but love-filled house. "You know what I learned, Princess? I didn't lose anything. I gained everything." Sophie nestled in his lap. "And we also gained a real mom." Martha smiled, putting her arms around the girls. "And I gained 2 daughters and a wonderful husband." As the sun set, painting the sky, gold and pink, Thunder approached the porch and put his head on Emily's shoulder. as if wanting to be part of the group hug. "I think Mum is watching us from up there," Sophie whispered. "I'm sure she is," Robert replied, "and she must be very happy." Benjamin joined the group, completing the circle of love that had begun with a storm and an accident, but which had revealed itself as the path to true happiness. There, on the banks of Eagle River, a family had been reborn from the ashes of lies and self-interest, proving that true love always finds its way home, and in the heart of each of them, the certainty that they had found exactly where they should always be, together, simple, happy, and complete. If this story interested, you don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit like.